Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness to the lived reality of trauma, complex trauma, and removal trauma, but what it creates and what it means to live coming from those experiences. But I would like to bring what I've learned through my own journey through this, as well as my many, many years as a practitioner, as an advocate, with the simple hope that something I may have learned or something that you learn here will be helpful and supportive within your own healing journey, improving the quality of your lives, but also creating the points of conversation that we are so desperately needing to have around the areas around the price tag that comes with removal of children and what it creates for those of us who come from that base. Now, yes, this is the next video in the adoption series. And just like the video I just uploaded onto my channel around, the emotional school that our nervous system learned from, I wanted to expand and work with that or unpack that a little from an adoption or an adoptee's perspective, the fog's perspective. Because for us, with the fog, what is created by being removed and placed and raised in a family that's not biologically our own, adds another layer to this. And for so many of it, it's a layer that creates so many difficulties within our friendships and within our relationships that I hope that what I can share here will help support the conversations within those friendships and relationships. Not to excuse our part of it, but to open the door. It is not deliberately done or maliciously done with any malicious intent. It is a direct result of what our removal created within us physiologically, in the hope that it can help build a better closeness within our friendships and relationships down the road through these conversations that we really need to start to have. Now, as I've explained in other videos, the components of the fog and how when you remove a child and you place them in non-biological family, that child has to bring cognitive components that are underdeveloped online to learn how to be part of that family, because the way nature intended us isn't there, because we're not being raised within our biological family. We need to learn how to bridge those gaps to teach our nervous system, our physical body, how to define being part of that family and what they need us to be and become to fit into the different mannerisms, the different personality bases. There's no epigenetic history with this family. We're not biologically there, so we have to adapt to be part of, to shape ourselves in their image, for want of a better analogy, so that we belong, so that the world sees that we are part of this family. That process adds another layer to how our emotions are defined by our nervous system. So if you take a moment and you look at your childhood, your early childhood, and go, well, how did it teach my body what emotions felt like? What does happy feel like? What does sad feel like? What does love feel like? What does hate and anger feel like? What does stress and harm feel like? What does loneliness feel like? We know the dictionary understandings of these, but I'm talking about the physical felt sense, what it feels in our body, what those emotions feel like within our body. And if we understand that definition that was created, the felt sense definition, and we put it to the fog scenario of growing up in a family that's not biologically our own, we have to amend and build another layer of observed interpretation to fit with theirs, because theirs is different, because they come from a different genetic ancestry. That's the epigenetic component. Then there's the other component of developmental trauma, where we focus on different parts as a priority. And like I explained in the other video, if you look at emotions in the format, or feelings as a format of a sound wave, a musical sound wave, a visual amplitude graph with the peaks and troughs. Our nervous system is wired to recognize the peaks at the top and the peaks and the troughs at the bottom far more, because we need to adjust our behavior to fit into this family. It becomes so critical. And because it's so developmentally early on for so many of us, it is so embedded within our nervous system as how we learn. It takes another step to change it. So if our nervous system is geared to only recognize the peaks and troughs, and the bit in the middle becomes more of a white noise, those are all the components of physical interactions, of what, being hugged feels like in the comfort of lying on somebody on the lounge and all this sort of stuff as a kid growing up. The cuddles and all the physical connections and intimacy within a biological family, when you have one that's safe and balanced and, the ideal image of it. All of that creates ways for our nervous system to read those and to physically engage and respond with those, and to embrace many of them when they feel good. But when you come from a removal and an adoption base, that is largely white noise, because we're taught to focus only on the peaks and troughs, and we don't develop this part in the middle. So when we start to engage in our relationships through adolescence, and we start seeking physical relationships, we push for more of the peaks and more of the troughs, because that's what our nervous system registers, and the bit in the middle still doesn't develop. So in the beginning, when friendships and relationships are new, everything's there, we're emotionally and physically present, we engage. But as it becomes more normalized and more daily, when things and all these physical interactions slip into this white noise in the middle, they don't register. And we don't physically respond and engage. We might mentally try to if we're paying attention. But if we're occupied with doing something, or we're focusing on something, they don't register. And those around us recognize that, and it becomes a pattern. And that pattern is why there is a barrier between us and them. Well, I see it really evident in children of adoptees, because there's that barrier, and that barrier is because of this white noise amplitude of where our physical body doesn't respond to those interactions. It doesn't recognize. So they may be looking at us and it doesn't register. They're going, well, I sat next to you in the lounge for an hour and it was like I wasn't even there. Or, I looked at you and glanced at you with a smile. You just sat there vaguely. It didn't register. There's all these little nuances every moment of every day that we have that are all part of these, physical reactions that our body doesn't respond to. And that's the point I'm trying to make in this video, that I want you guys to grasp and understand. It is not our fault. It is a direct consequence of what happened by and through our removal and placement. And it takes that understanding to move past that. We're not doing it deliberately, to have the conversations to open the door to working with this. And the only way to work with this is we need the physical, intimate, close connections and co-regulatory relationships. We need physical interactions and closeness to teach our nervous system all the little nuances that are blanked out in that white noise bit in the middle. That is how we heal the fog. That is how we feel the physical intimacies and connections that we need, that were wiped out because of our placement and adoption. There are adoptees that 100% have resolved this because their adoption worked. They matched. There was close enough stuff, and there was a lot of physical work done. There was close physical interactions within their childhood growing up in that adoptive family. And it taught their nervous system how to work with all the stuff in the middle. But as so many adoptions fail to varying degrees of destructivity, we don't learn it. And if you come from a really bad adoption, your nervous system never learned it. And we can try and put it in our head all the time to do it. We either remain constantly hypervigilant in our relationship, which again doesn't work. We need to create the paths of understanding, and that leads to the physical interactions to teach our nervous system how to work with the pieces in the middle, the amplitudes in the middle that our nervous system never learned how to growing up. That is basically how we can heal from this. The difficulty is the physical world reality that this creates. And my goal for this video, and several others that have led up to it, is just the conversations that we need to have. If we can remove the maliciousness that other people feel and think that we do these things from, and that's pretty much how they view it, that we're doing it deliberately, then we start to have the conversations, and then we can start to find ways to work with, because as I said, we can only learn to heal this by teaching our nervous system through physical experiences. You can't do it from a book, you can't do it from a talk, you can't do it from conversation, you can't do it from words. It has to come from physical experiences, and those physical experiences need to be varied, and they also need to be appropriate. In the beginning, when we have this white noise bit in the middle, most will pursue the sexually intimate aspects, because in the beginning there are peaks and there are troughs. They're within the parameters that our nervous system knows how to read. There's excitement, there's newness, there's all these moments. But as I said, once it slips back into that white noise, we need to teach our nervous system to recognize it and engage with it. Not see it as a threat, not see it as an overwhelmment, but engage and participate with it. I really hope this makes sense. And as I said, I want to unpack this over a couple of videos. And I'll take these definitions into a more, hopefully a deeper understanding, because this is getting quite deep, guys. But I just want in this video to recognize, for you guys to recognize that it's there and to understand its existence. Not to see it as an excuse, but to see it as something that was created out of our control that we need to understand and learn how to work with. And it's only through conversations with those that are part of our lives, to where we are all on that understanding, can we learn within our own lives to work with it. I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time. Hope.